Good evening, UN Watch friends. I was planning on being there with all of you tonight, but unfortunately, urgent duties in Israel prevent me from leaving at the moment. I'm a former soldier, but the images of the aftermath of the October 7th massacre I saw were like nothing I've ever seen before. I witnessed just some of the scenes of unspeakable horror perpetrated by Hamas terrorists. I've also spent much of my time with IDF soldiers and commanders at the borders with Gaza and Lebanon. I found them truly inspirational. Their courage and fighting effectiveness have again been burnished on the battlefield in Gaza. Throughout this conflict, the IDF, on the ground and in the air, has adhered strictly to the laws of armed conflict. You wouldn't think that if you listened to the stream of political leaders, including in the US and Britain, virtue signaling to the anti-Israel elements of their electorates. They cynically remind Israel to observe international humanitarian law and to minimize civilian casualties, when they know very well that is exactly what the IDF has been doing from the start. These reminders are greedily seized on by much of the media eager to accuse Israel of war crimes. This is a terrible war, and the UN Human Rights Council have both Israeli and Palestinian Arab blood on their hands, as I have repeatedly warned them when speaking at the Council on behalf of UN Watch. Each time they pass a twisted and dishonest resolution falsely accusing Israel of war crimes for defending its people while at the same time failing to condemn Hamas terrorists. They encourage more and greater violence. Hamas's crimes and the Human Rights Council's dismissal of them are the real cycle of violence in the Middle East. That cycle led ultimately to the massacre of 1,400 Israelis, their rape, torture, burning alive, and kidnapping. It led to the deaths of Israeli soldiers in battle. And let's speak the truth that the Human Rights Council can't or won't say. Its complicity led to large numbers of casualties in Gaza, despite the IDF's extraordinary efforts to minimize such casualties. One of the most bizarre and disturbing scenes that I have witnessed was at Geneva last year, when the Russian Federation ambassador, who was supposedly suspended from the Council after his country's illegal war against Ukraine, made a speech condemning Israel for human rights abuse. To compliant nods from many other ambassadors, he singled out Israel, even as his own army murdered and raped Ukrainian civilians, fired drones at their cities, and kidnapped thousands of their children. This is the looking glass world of the Human Rights Council, the body that was founded to stand up for human rights has perverted itself into a cover and even a vehicle for the most grotesque human rights abuses. Successive UN Secretary Generals and world leaders have confessed the Council's inbuilt preoccupation with and bias against Israel. Yet still, the Council's malevolent work continues unabated. All attempts at reform have failed. For years, UN Watch has robustly stood up to this institutional abuse in Geneva. When the war in Gaza ends, yet another warped inquiry and resolution by the Human Rights Council will follow as night follows day. The cycle of crime and cover-up will be repeated. When that day comes, the invaluable work of UN Watch will be needed more than ever. Thank you.